Hello everyone and welcome to this Nintendo Life episode 126. My name is Nbz and I am Spider-Man.
I tell you what I did, Nbz.
Tell me.
While I'm like deep into Spider-Man, I was like, I own a few Spider-Man comics somewhere. I'm gonna raid my house for them. So I went and found them. I've not tweeted a picture yet, but I've also got like a what do you call it? A DK. You know the DK books in like the UK. You get them.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe it's an American company. I don't know, but it's like
the
ultimate guide to Spider-Man, written by Tom DeFalco.
Okay.
And then I also have the Amazing Spider-Man, July number 7. I don't know what year that is. It's got like a US price at the bottom, so I assume I got it in the States a while ago. And
is it called 2001 when we went to America and bought stuff at the Marvel World?
It might be, but I feel like that was a different comic.
I remember getting a Spider-Man comic there. I really do.
So this comic is called Brave New World, apparently.
Okay.
And then I've also got a Captain America one called Sentinel of Liberty. So yeah.
Yes, I think I have the Captain America one as well. I actually think that is the first time I'd ever heard of Captain America is when I got that comic.
Right.
Yeah, because I think most people wouldn't have heard of him until like the Marvel films became quite big.
And like this game, Marvel's Spider-Man for PS4 has just made me
Marvel's
I want to read a Spider-Man comic. That's what it's done to me. So yeah, here we go.
Anyway, that's not a Nintendo video game, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because it's the game at the moment. So, yes, welcome to the show. Bally is here. He's been swinging around New York, so have I. It's been a good time. And yeah, we're going to talk about some video game things today, and all the things that we love. And one of those is going to be the guy who climbs on walls and swings about. Just like the classic good old days where we spent 2 days straight playing Spider-Man 2.
That is how this game feels. I mean, we'll get into it, but it definitely the same feels like course through my body when I'm playing this game.
Yeah, and just saying this game would be better on a GameCube controller. I'm just, everything's better on a GameCube controller. Just going to put it out there. Anyway, let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. What are we doing on the show, Bally?
We have been playing so much that we thought we would do another 2-segment show where first segment we're going to talk about what we've been playing. It's going to be a bit extended. There's a lot to cover. And then second segment, it's not happened yet, but the magic of editing will put it together. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct that's been obviously delayed a week due to the earthquakes in Hokkaido, but will hopefully be happening tomorrow night, tomorrow being Thursday the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah, 13th
well,
of September.
We're fortunate that it's weird timing that it's worked out better for our podcast, strangely enough.
Yeah.
But, hey, that's how
So second segment, we're going to cover all the ins and outs of that Direct when it happens.
35 minutes of fun. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting things in there. I feel like some of that stuff, like the Mega Man 11 demo and like Civilization VI, maybe would have been in there, and then other companies had to announce their stuff, so it just kind of happened. But hopefully there's some interesting stuff in there. 35 minutes is quite a long time, especially when you consider a lot of their stuff recently has been quite compacted, and so you'll kind of bullet point your way through it, which means there's potential for a lot of announcements.
We even got a date for the online service, which I think is the 19th of September. I can't remember. It's
whatever that means, and whatever happens on that day, we'll find out.
Maybe the Direct will cover that as well. We'll see.
Potentially, yeah. Okay, well, with that underway and said and done, let's get on with the show. Bally, what have you been playing? What have you been finishing off?
So I finished up Bad North. Well, normally I talk about games that I beat, but this time the game has beaten me. This rarely happens on the show, so
this is your first tangle with a roguelike.
This
Bally.
is a proper rogue.
Let me tell you, I've never beaten a roguelike either. Like every single one I've tried, Rogue Legacy, Flint Hook, all those different types of games, I've not finished them. But I'm like, I played a good amount of this. I feel like I'm done.
And that's how I feel about this. So I did get to the final island. I feel like I've seen everything in the game that I needed to see, and then I was defeated at that final island, and I thought the design of that final island was horrible. Like, it had tunnels that link up across it, and I just really hate tunnels in this game because you have to like work out choke points. It's all a bit more complicated. So I was like not a fan of the design of it. So this is the great thing about indie games. I tweeted the developers of the game just to check whether the final island was also part of the algorithm, like whether it was randomized as well, because my fear was that the final island wasn't part of the algorithm and it was separate, but they confirmed, yes, it is part of the algorithm, and that gave me a bit more impetus to try again and like get to this final island and hopefully get a different island that I've
get a lucky coin flip so that it's not that type of island.
But then I realized that getting to the final island at all, I was incredibly lucky, because there are just so many islands that just randomly happen where there just are hordes and hordes of enemies that destroy you. And I did another run after getting to the final island, and I got destroyed a couple of islands out from the final island. It was in sight, and I got destroyed. And then after that, I was like, I'm not in the position to just keep banging my head against this game and trying to get to that beat the game overall. So, like, I had a great time. I must have done about 10 runs total, maybe 8 or 9, and I had a great time. I saw the final island, didn't quite do it. There's a lot of luck in this game. I'll just put that out there.
I mean, that's what happens with randomization, doesn't it? It's always going to give you some sort of roll that may not be in your favor, and it's about the adaptability, right? And just being able to deal with that situation. And sometimes you're going to get lucky and have one that's easier for you, and sometimes it's not going to be so simple.
And I need to check if you can do this, but one thing you could do is every time you face a difficult island, just note down the name of that island, and then next time it turns up in the algorithm, try going to a different island, sort of thing. So I think that's maybe a strategy. Just kind of gaming the system to a degree,
so do you know for sure that that's how it works, is the name of the island it'll be permanently that type?
I believe, yes. I believe the islands don't change themselves, but the order changes. And then sometimes you'll just... And there's lots of points in the map. There's a choke point where you have to go through a certain island or so. So I think that there's a minimum difficulty that they ensure you have to pass, like a threshold. So.
Sure,
anyway. That was a bad north. I was going to move
a
on
bad
to
north.
a way out, a bad north. So it was great, but tough. You were up in Edinburgh, Nbz.
Yes.
We played the co-op game of the year. Came out back in like February, right? It was quite early
It was maybe in March, April, I think, a little bit later. But yes, the follow-up to Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which is one of my favorite games of all time, from the mind of Joseph Fares, aka Fuck the Oscars dude. Yes, A Way Out, which is a cooperative game, actually a cooperative game this time, as opposed to Brothers, which was a kind of single-player co-op game in a lot of ways. This is built for couch co-op. You sit down with a friend, you take these two characters who are in prison, and you play through their story, basically. And
we did it in one go with a lunch break.
We did, yeah. So it took us around 6 hours total, but I'm glad that we did it all in one go, because I think it definitely pays off. And it's a very interesting game. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think you would probably enjoyed it more than I did.
Right.
And I think some of the things that bugged me about it were more... it kind of is doing a little bit of budget Uncharted. Not only the fact that Fares's brother is one of the actors who looks like a knockoff Nathan Drake. That is a little bit funny.
The Italian-American Nathan Drake.
Yeah, exactly. Like really bad accent, trying to do an American accent that doesn't quite work. And there were just some sections near the end that were like, this is kind of very low-budget Uncharted and doesn't feel great. And I've seen it before and done a lot better in terms of not only the storytelling, but I think just some of the mechanical stuff going on there as well. But it is very unique, and I think one of the most unique things about it is the way it handles camera angles and cinematics, because there will be moments where I would be in a cutscene, but you would still be walking around. So right at the start of the game, when one of us enters the prison, I am standing there being checked and like being stripped down naked, and you can see guards going past all the prisoners, and meanwhile you are upstairs and you can literally take a look down over the railing and see me standing there, even though I'm inside a cutscene at the same time. Which can lead to some goofy moments later on when you're maybe talking to someone or in a cutscene, and I would come along and just like move my character model around and shake it about in the background to really ruin the immersion. And I was like, that's very funny.
It does take itself fairly seriously, I feel, the game. So it kind of does jar a bit when you do goofy stuff.
Yes.
more so than it might otherwise in a more lighthearted game, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's quite self-serious, I think those moments are like, this shouldn't be in this game, but you're able to do it. You're able to break the moment and make something that should be quite emotional not emotional in any way.
Yeah.
Which I like to some degree. I like it when games allow you that freedom to be a bit stupid with them.
Sure.
But yeah, maybe it goes against the nature of it.
Liking a game for maybe not all the right reasons, I guess. Not the right reasons in terms of the way that the developers want you to enjoy it, I guess is a better way of phrasing that. But
yeah, totally.
And I agree. I think for how serious the game is, the writing is not the best. And
no, it's pretty rough.
The characters are really not deep at all, almost. And
but they are like, they're weirdly funny, especially Leo, who is the character that you played as, who is he just says the most outlandish things and says, and his line delivery is in such a way that it just made us laugh so many times because it was so bad. There's like this homeless guy sitting on the street and he just goes up to him and he's like, man, you're a mess, man, or some shit like that.
You gotta sort yourself out. What are you
sort out your life? And it's like, what are you doing to this poor homeless man? Oh my goodness.
So,
he's very not self-aware, I would say.
That's definitely maybe the negative side of the game, with the characters and the story. But
I will to some degree, but also there's a weird kind of B-movie-esque thing about it that is endearing. Like with Leo, just I do think that there is a quality to his character that he was written to be serious, but the way that the game delivers that, it makes it so that it's totally the opposite, and he feels like this very like goober kind of character, as I think I referenced when we were playing.
And his character does kind of fit into the really over the top action and, like you said, Uncharted like experience. Like, this game really goes places when it comes to like some of the action sequences and the things that you're doing in the game that I had no idea about before going in. And generally, I mean, they didn't control amazing, but they kind of controlled well enough where we still had a really, really good time, and they were fun and exciting. And it
helped with the pacing, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the early game is quite slow.
Very slow, yeah.
It is puzzle solvy. It is narrative driven in a way that sometimes is a little bit I don't know, hard to get past, and there are some moments that happen.
It's like you're almost going to get past this point, and then actually have to go back and do this other thing. And there's a bit
exactly.
Of,
there's a lot of false endings in that first part of the game where I was like, really, we have to do this again? Like, go back and
come on, let's go. Yeah, but then
you're never doing the exact same thing again. But it is one of those like, we should probably have been out of this situation by this point, but we're not. So let's just keep going and maybe pad it out to some degree. But I think once you get past that particular point in the narrative, it starts to pick up a lot more and it gets a bit more varied. There are some fun things in there in terms of like mini games, right? Where there's one where one player was throwing a baseball and the other person was using a baseball bat. So it's basically just a mini Wii Sports moment almost.
Yeah. There's lots of little mini games, like there's a Connect 4 and things that you can play against each other. And it's just
you can arm wrestle each other, which is great fun.
And that's such a big part of this game, is the amount you're interacting with your partner and doing things together, whether that's part of the story quest or just a bit of fun on the side. And that is the core message of this whole game, that obviously links into the ending that I don't want to spoil.
But it is like, if you know what Joseph Fares does with the ending of the last game that he did, he makes a point, and he does something that you may not expect, and is something that works to what the game has been built around, basically. Right,
it's another brilliant example of what makes the medium of games so unique. Like, this game does that just as well, arguably, if not better than Brothers, in my view, personally.
I would say Brothers does it better personally for me, but I still think the delivery of it this time was excellent, and I think that it's a smart thing. And I keep wondering what he's going to do next and how he's going to try to change expectations, which is interesting.
I really loved this game. I, like you said, probably more so than you, Nbz.
Yeah.
I thought that I came away from this with a better feeling Not a better feeling than Brothers. The first time I played Brothers at your house, I was incredibly positive. So I don't want to necessarily put it above Brothers in my mind right now, but I think I was definitely... I left this game wanting to think about it and look up stuff online about, different things and people's reactions. And this game really captivated me in a way that I just wasn't anticipating at all. And I would highly recommend checking out this game if you have a co-op partner. It doesn't take long. It's decent value, and the whole... I mean, if you're splitting the price between two people, and likewise you can play online. I know we played couch co-op, and that is probably the best way, but this game I think you can play online with only one person buying the game, which is like a neat little thing this game does to help you be able to play with someone else.
Unless, of course, you are doing it on PlayStation or Xbox, in which case you have to pay the online fee in order to even access it.
Fair enough, yeah.
Which we dodged because we played it on PS4, but did it in person, so we didn't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really did enjoy it as well. I definitely think, it has its rough moments and it has parts that are bad, but that initial choice of like, I don't know which character we're going to be, I was like, I don't know, this is how we're sitting right now. How about I do this person on the left, you do this person on the right?
It's kind of a big deal.
By the end it's like, oh, okay, like we both had a attachment to our characters in a way that was very interesting by the end of the game, for sure. So you do build that up. Something
that we didn't care about at the start, we cared a lot more about later on, and that was a cool feeling I wasn't expecting.
For sure, yeah. It's very unique, and I want this guy to keep making games, even if they have flaws and are a little bit, not super well put together or polished in some areas.
Yeah, I mean,
his ideas and the way he implements them are just very different from a lot of what other people
and when
doing.
You think about narrative-driven games that have voice acting and these things like that, I would argue the vast majority of games that really get those things right are often much higher budget, and a game like is quite clearly a bit lower budget. But for the budget that it's got, I thought it did really well, and it was. It's a very unique video game in a similar way to the way Brothers is quite a unique video game, and there's something about
less unique in a lot of ways, though. Like as I said, I do think it comes off as a knockoff Uncharted at points, and I think that's where it gets weaker in terms of its uniqueness. But it
still goes places and does things
Definitely.
that was cool. Anyway,
great,
that's a way out.
Yes. Recommend it if you have someone else to play with. And then Bally, there's the big one.
Played the big one, Marvel's Spider-Man.
Yes.
And we are actually just discussing before the podcast. We're actually at a similar stage in the story, which I want to say is roughly halfway through, perhaps maybe.
I would say probably 2/3.
2/3, you think?
Yeah.
Well, we're roughly the same area. I think I've done quite a bit more side stuff. I'm a few levels higher than you.
You are, yeah.
I'm really positive on this game. So from the start, I found the combat was really good. I've loved the combat the whole way through, but I definitely died a lot at the start of the game.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I think it's because guns are so powerful, and sometimes being aware of your surroundings is tough. One of the drawbacks I have felt so far is the lack of any sort of lock-on or switch-to camera. It feels quite difficult to deal with a lot of enemies around you because sometimes they will be out of sight, and so you might be beating up on one guy and not see that a dude with a gun is standing behind you. And there's no real easy way to do that because the way the camera works is it moves in sync with your combat abilities, and because you're flying around the place so frequently, it has to adjust so that it's the best angle for what makes the spectacle look good, I guess. I don't know. It feels like it's built around making you look cool, and so it's maybe to the detriment to some degree of your perceptibility of the enemies around you and being able to deal with them effectively. And it does take you a little time to adjust to that and be able to like dodge out of the way correctly and move your camera stick fast enough, because combat is pretty quick and you are doing a lot at once. So it does take a bit of getting your hands around.
But I mean, thematically, the things that you're doing in these combat sequences are incredible. I've not seen anything like that in a fight system in a game. Like, you are Spider-Man in the sense that you are slinging webs, you're zipping from one area to the other, you like using your spider sense to dodge bullet moves and all this, and there's all this stealth stuff as well integrated, where you can web up enemies into the ceiling or just drop down, beat a guy up and kill him and then get back up, sort of thing. Like, I feel like that whole mechanical system they've gone for feels so comic book and so Spider-Man, that in a way I wasn't expecting.
Right, and I think so much of it has to do with the quality of the animation. It is just outstanding, and I think that is why the swinging feels even better, is because of the body movements, like the way he arcs his back, the way that he dives, the way that he backflips and side flips and jumps off walls, like the interaction with the environment when you're running up buildings, off the side of buildings, do little flicks and things that are very like they build a lot of the character of the charisma and cheek of Spider-Man into his moveset to the degree that really brings across his character in combat and in traversal, which is just such a smart way of dealing with it, and it really makes him feel like the Marvel Spider-Man that we see in the movies, with just all of the crazy acrobatics that go on in all of these scenes.
And you talk about acrobatics and like the fight mechanics. There's like an auto kill combo where you basically press triangle and circle when your little meter's high enough up, and the number
of finishing move.
A finishing move, exactly. And the number of different animations they have for that one thing, I think, is unbelievably impressive. Especially when you compare it to a game like God of War that just came out earlier this year, and it had finishing moves where you're pushing both joysticks, and you'd see the same animation about 100 to 300 times in the course of that game. Whereas
it's because all those enemies, every enemy that you fought would have the exact same animation, and it would be the same one every time. So like the elves, you would always grab the lance and throw it through them, or rip off the wings,
And I talked about how the fight mechanics, like this game, at the start, the fighting feels tough and the movement feels, and I actually thought it felt initially a bit slow, but then honestly, in a similar way where you talked about powering up in a video you did on Metroid, Nbz, I honestly think this does that in a huge way in a 3D sense, where you feel the traversal just becomes so much faster and easier, and fighting you become more powerful. Like, groups of enemies become easier and easier to fight, and you feel this growth of getting stronger that I didn't think this game had in it at all. It's kind of like an RPG to a degree. Like, it's kind of weird.
I mean, it has a leveling system, right? Which is one of those things that you don't expect, and yet literally every goddamn video game this time of, like, this century has RPG elements. It's to the point where it's just not even a thing that we should discuss, because every video game has it, right? And it's weird that we've got to that point in genres where they have just melded all into one. But since like Call of Duty implemented the leveling up system for its online progression, pretty much every game since then has had some kind of leveling mechanic, gear system. No matter where it's implemented, players like progression, and so having a skill tree that you can dump points into, having levels that you gain, having experience is just a standard of pretty much any video game at this point in time. And so I kind of am not super surprised by it, but in terms of getting stronger, I agree to some degree, but I also think that there's a limit to it. I kind of found myself, and at this point I don't know how many hours I'm in, but I feel like I have go-to moves that I use on certain enemies, and I'll just do that for every enemy. So for example, the shield guys, I punch them once, press the dodge button to slide under them, hold down punch to put them in the air, and then just finish them off in the air. And that is every time I see a shield guy, I will just do that exact same thing, because that's what works, and it works, so I do it. So I think that at some point it becomes an exercise in just repeating combos that you have put into place that work, and there's less of the management of kind of figuring things out, because you just have go-to things, and it's less about making improvisational choices, if you see what I mean.
To a degree. I definitely, if a wave of heavy guys comes at me, I have to respond in a very different way to a wave of a different type of enemy.
Yeah, you do. But it's also the same response, isn't it?
It's the same response, but once those things are mixed up, I don't mind that as much, just because I think the mechanics feel so solid that while it gets easier and you just feel more like a badass, I guess. I think I enjoy that feeling. A bit like you with Fire Emblem Awakening, Nbz, where you just enjoy just destroying something. I don't know.
Yeah, sure, yeah, definitely.
Maybe a poor comparison, but I'm feeling that with this game where it's like, yes, I'm Spider-Man. I'm defeating all these enemies really easily, and it feels amazing. Like I want more. I want bosses. I want things like this, and that's really propelled me on to want to do more and collect more things, I should say. Where we can maybe talk about the open world nature of this game, and I was just thinking, like, this is arguably only the third open world game I've ever played,
which is just ridiculous.
Fourth if you want to count Simpsons Hit and Run, which I guess counts.
It's not really, no,
it kind of is.
Simpsons Hit and Run is split into like 7 different chapters with 7 different mini areas,
7 mini open worlds, but yeah, fine. I honestly think I will want to 100% this game just because the ease of travel is so strong. And what I meant,
definitely.
What I meant by like the fact I've only played 3 games is a lot of the criticisms I've seen have been like, oh, it's the same old towers, you get collectibles.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
copy and paste design.
Copy and paste. Sick of that with open world games. I'm not burned on that in the same way where I could pick up the next Assassin's Creed and I'd enjoy going into all the towers and stuff because I've not experienced that enough. And
yeah.
So combining that with the fact that this is Spider-Man and the world is actually feels relatively small because of how fast and easily it is to get around because you're Spider-Man. Like, so the idea of collecting all these collectibles doesn't feel like a big chore in my mind. It's enjoyable, it's easy, fun, it doesn't take long, and I've looked up, it takes about 30 hours to 100% a game, and that's very rare for an open world game these days to be able to collect everything in about 30 hours.
Yeah, exactly, because most of them are just so bloated and over the top,
right?
It gets very difficult.
Feels like it just gives you enough collectibles at the right times to upgrade the right amount. At first, I agree, and some others have said this, that it feels quite overwhelming, and I agree, it does initially feel overwhelming, but after that initial wow, there's a lot of things to do, it does gradually trickle out more in terms of upgrades and things to do. And it implements it so well through the main story where it'll do a little side bit to introduce you to, oh, this is another thing you can do in the open world. And here are all these collectibles that relate to that one thing you've just done. So I do like that structure, and it feels like Spider-Man 2. It feels so similar. The idea of, do I want to go do more collectibles or do this main story on Manhattan as Spider-Man, is basically what Spider-Man 2 was. And this game just does all those things so much better.
Yeah, in terms of that stuff, I was very much wanting to do it early game in terms of the backpacks and the landmarks, like taking the photos and finding those things. But for me, it's because those are quick hits and I can just jump from one to the next, and so my attention is always just flipping on to a new thing, and it doesn't take too long, right? Like collecting the backpacks doesn't take a long time. It's about a hide and seek kind of collectathon thing, and the landmarks are a similar idea. For me, it gets harder when it's like, oh, fight another group of thugs, and it's just another group of thugs, and it doesn't really take that long, but it is long enough to break my flow because I have to drop down to the street level or I have to drop down onto a building level, and then I have to decide, okay, where am I going next? Whereas pinging from one backpack to the other, or pinging from one landmark to the other, or even some of the stuff a little bit later on that is less involved, is what I like the most when it comes to these open games with a lot of varied traversal. As I've said in the past, my favorite types of open world games are ones where you have ease of movement and getting around. So games like the Infamous series, where your superpowers allow you to just zip all over the place, and it's really fun to move around, and getting up buildings.
Does this feel like that then? Does it feel like Infamous?
It feels even more free. Like it feels so much more free and
love
fast.
The mechanics of Infamous, right? And how that feels. Yeah.
Infamous is brilliant, and I think the brilliance of Infamous in terms of collectibles, especially in the first game, is actually a little better for me than Spider-Man, because Infamous is about collecting shards for the most part when it comes to the side stuff, and those shards will help implement your health. They'll extend your health bar, and just the more you get of them, the stronger you'll get. So the way that works, though, is because there are like 200 of them across the world map, and they're all these like tiny little shiny things. It's more about using your eyeline and eyesight in the environment to flick from one thing to the other. So I barely opened the map when I was going for collectibles in Infamous, because they do such a brilliant job of highlighting it in the environment.
So it's your own, like Breath of the Wild, I guess, as well.
Exactly, right? So it's your own line of sight, which inherently will make it more satisfying to find, because you are the one doing the work there. Whereas with Spider-Man, the backpacks are really fun to do and just tick off a list, but it really is ticking off a list, because you would not have a chance of just coming across them or finding them, because they're put in very difficult to find places, and they're just not very like, they don't have a good signal around them. Like, you know, the signaling in Breath of the Wild with the orange of the shrines and stuff like that.
Very clear.
And Infamous does the same thing with the shards, it being very like bright and shiny in the environment, which is otherwise a little bit drab and kind of city-like, more apocalyptic to some degree. So that's why I feel that there's a bit of a weakness there, because it is more checklisty, even if it does feel so good. And, you know, ultimately it comes down to the traversal being so much fun to do that it kind of doesn't really matter, because I'm just like, I just want to move around this city, and I just want an excuse to move around the city, right? That's what these collectibles provide for me, and it's an excuse to not use fast travel or to just explore the city and go around it. And to some degree, the city is not really a place for exploration. You know, that the street level doesn't offer much. You can't go inside buildings. You can look inside windows and stuff, and it seems like, you know, they've done a good job of populating those areas, but nothing feels distinct or stand out. Even the landmarks don't really have much
I think
character.
They do, kind of. Like,
well, they look cool, but like, what is there to do there, right? The New York that is being created is really just an excuse to have buildings to swing Spider-Man through to get from thing to thing.
Sure.
The environment itself inherently is not that interesting to me. Number one, because it's a city. Number two, because they just haven't put much outside of those checklist things in it.
Yeah, I mean, like, the next level would be like outside the Avengers Tower, for example. You'd see S.H.I.E.L.D. at the bottom doing stuff in trucks, or I don't know, and then outside the UN you might have loads of diplomats walking in around.
Or even just be able to go inside, you know, some of the buildings and have things in there, or have side quests that take place around there.
But on a very basic level, I love the idea that they have included something like the Avengers Tower in this game. It just,
definitely,
it speaks volumes to me. And like, I enjoyed the landmarks and the backpacks, both for traversal reasons, but also some of the writing and the items that you're getting in the backpacks. I was really enjoying.
Yes, no, actually, I will say that one of the things that really motivated me to get the backpacks was every little Easter egg that had been hidden inside one of them. And then Yuri Lowenthal, who plays Peter Parker, does a really, really good job, actually. I think the voice acting overall is excellent. The performances are great. Laura Bailey, great as Mary Jane. Like, just really good performances so far. And he just delivers a little tidbit, a little line that is voiced about that particular moment in his life, that particular thing, what was going on then, which is really great for just building out the backstory of this particular Spider-Man.
And the constant, like, the writing everywhere on stuff like the backpacks, and the constant phone calls between Mary Jane and Aunt May and all of these enemies and things who call in, and Jonah Jameson, like, always calling in, radioing in. Like, the amount of chatter in this game and the strength of the writing and the voice acting is so spot on. It genuinely just feels like you're in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. And like that, I'm just talking about the flavor text here and there, but then once you get into the story, which I think is a fairly strong story, but I think the characters are better than the story. But
definitely, yeah. And I mean, I think that I would say that generally when it comes to any kind of media, I feel for me it's always about strength of character over strength of story.
Sure. I mean, but very quick comparison, I think A Way Out had a better story than it did characters, for example. Like, it can be the opposite.
Maybe, to some degree.
Yeah, but I think that this game is fairly strong in both and very strong in characters, and
definitely,
I think the timing that it comes into Peter Parker's life is so much the strength of that. Like, the the relationship.
Yeah, the fact that we're not doing the origin story, like, thank God for, like, Jesus, we've seen that far too many times in so many different ways.
And it references so many villains and previous things that have happened, and so many of those villains.
Right, there's pre-existing relationships between Shocker and, like, all these other villains before.
Yeah, and then, like, you will see so many of these things, and it links so well. And his relationship with Otto Octavius is so good, and it's something that I just was not expecting with this game. And the constant back and forth with Mary Jane and, like, what is happening there, and, like, it's this game has a lot more depth to it than arguably Spider-Man even should or needs to have, but they've really gone for it in a way that, I mean, I've not played many superhero games at all, but the story, and I want to know what's going to happen, and I want to know what's going to happen to those relationships, more importantly.
Definitely.
And
yeah.
I know people have talked about that this is likely going to be a trilogy. Fine, great. I'm not expecting the ending to be overly...
It's inevitably going to have another game because it's sold like bananas.
It's sold like bananas. And, like, kind of, when you think about, like, Sony's owned the rights to Spider-Man for so long, it has been kind of a long time before Sony have made their own Spider-Man game. Like, it is...
Yes.
For it to come out in 2018 is kind of surprising, but I'm so
glad.
I
think it's just this confluence of Disney figuring things out, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe being such a overwhelming success, and then being like, okay, how do we replicate this in the video game space? And the smart thing to do is to go after really good studios who make excellent games, as opposed to farming it out to some random, third party who just does port work most of the time and does licensed games, and they're just not very good. We finally, I think, have an establishment where we are, like, there's an Avengers game coming from Square Enix, and that's going to be developed by Crystal Dynamics, who made the Tomb Raider. I was going to say, it's really hard because it's not the first Tomb Raider, but it's 2013's Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider. And they're working on an Avengers game, which may take place in the same universe as this. It'd be very interesting if we had a video game universe, just like the cinematic one. I would absolutely love that. And, like, if those games are anywhere near the quality of this one, I'm sold. And it's this game, that's part of the reason I love the fact that Avengers Tower is there, and there are references to, like, what the Avengers are doing, even as brief as it is. It's just nice to have. And at a time when, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so sort of triumphant in its successes, and there's so many films coming, and part of that series is its own series of Spider-Man films, to then have another Spider-Man universe, essentially, because this isn't strictly MCU, this is its own thing. It's really bold to do its own thing and not just want to tie it in, and it's doing its own thing in a way that's really interesting, that I was not expecting about this game at all. Yeah, it's very, very Marvel of 2018, and I think that even goes down to when you're swinging through the city and the music behind you, as soon as you set off, just starts swelling it just feels like you're hearing that signature kind of tune from the Marvel films.
And there's some things that just make it feel even more 2018, like the fact that Jonah Jameson is basically based off of Alex Jones and has all these conspiracy theories.
And you hear him through a podcast, not through the radio.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's, like, these car chases you do, and then one of the quips that Peter Parker says is, "Oh, you're not getting a 5-star review," sort of thing, and you're like, wow, Uber reference in a video game. Okay, this is definitely not 2014 or something. This is 2018, and that's cool. Like, it just, the writing in that sense just feels very relevant.
It's of the time.
It works, and I cannot wait for the rest of this story, and hopefully a great trilogy of games, and whatever this Marvel gaming universe, the MGU can become. That would be, we'll see where it goes.
As much as I don't think the side stuff is particularly good, and it is very copy and paste design,
definitely,
there are some moments that really stand out for me, in the sense that you really feel like Spider-Man when you're swinging through the city and you hear a radio call in and you click on the stick to see where the crime is being committed, and it's a car chase and you start swinging after this car that's already in motion going down the highway, and you're getting closer and closer, and you zoom into it and you take down the guys on the car and you stop the car mid city, and then you just jump off and go on your way. It feels like what Spider-Man would be doing, which is just going through the city, stopping crimes when he sees them and moving on. And in those ones, especially when it's the car chase, it feels so much more natural and kinetic.
Yeah.
And that stuff really works for me. I'll always stop and do one of those as opposed to, oh, they're just, thugs are just standing on the street, because it feels less Spider-Man because there's less, you kind of have to stop for a moment almost.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing I'll say is they do a good job of incentivizing you to do the side stuff because of the rewards.
I mean, they kind of force you, I guess. It's not, you don't have a choice to some degree.
Well, to some degree, but I think like the skills that you're getting from just doing missions is where you're going to get most of the stuff you need for progressing through the game. But the suits and the cosmetics and having the bonuses and just having a suit that you want to wear because it looks cool. One of the smartest decisions they made was to divorce the ability from the suit.
Very good decision.
You can wear whatever you want with whatever ability you want. That was really cool because it means that you can go around being whatever looking Spider-Man you like. And I think that a lot of people will go after 100% just because they want to unlock all the costumes in the game,
Sure.
It's an incentive, and I think a lot of them look really good and they're just really well designed, and yeah, it's cool to just be a Spider-Man. So we're going to keep doing that until we finish the game, I guess, which I'll probably barrel on through because I've got, Dragon Quest 11 under my belt as well, so a lot of things to be playing. But yeah, any last things to say about Spider-Man before we move on?
Just that it's cool that in this year 2018, it's interesting that Tomb Raider is kind of the end of a trilogy, and then God of War and Spider-Man might be the start of two other trilogies, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I like that idea that there's a lot to look forward to.
Definitely, yeah, there absolutely is. Sony have kind of established a solid kind of place to go forward in the next generation, for sure. So the last thing to talk about is a game that I played when I was in Edinburgh when I had some time off. I downloaded The Messenger on the Switch, which is, you've probably heard about it. It's been talked about a little bit, but it is basically, if Shovel Knight was Mega Man, The Messenger would be Ninja Gaiden. In the sense that it is basically a retro-style game, which still does a lot of new stuff and interesting stuff, but is molded after the classic Ninja Gaiden games, of which I haven't really played any. I've never played NES Ninja Gaiden. I have watched quite a bit of them through YouTube videos over the years and just seeing people play them. And it feels like that in terms of the animation and the movement from what I have observed before. So you play as this character who is the messenger, and they are tasked with carrying this scroll. There is some world-ending apocalypse, blah de blah. The story is surprisingly, the story actually gets quite good by the end, which is weird to say for a game like this. But the setup isn't anything remarkable, and so you are going through a lot of linear levels, which are quite long and extended, and I guess around the same sort of punishing difficulty as Shovel Knight, which isn't super hard, but is a good balance between the old school stylings and more modern design. One of the things I don't like about The Messenger is that you die if you fall into a pit, which is the same in Shovel Knight as well, but I feel like the punishment for it is a little worse in this game because it has enemies that constantly respawn. So if you move off screen even just a little bit, you can be caught off guard and accidentally be hit by something.
Retro.
It is very retro in a way that in the back half of the game doesn't really work at all. But yeah, you can be accidentally knocked into a pit when you just scrolled something off the screen and it just all of a sudden appears again. And you're like, oh, god damn it, why? And that kind of leads to some frustration. But I think the most impressive thing about it is its movement system. It gives you a lot of movement abilities, including one of my favorites, which is called Cloud Step, which essentially is when you hit an object or an enemy or a projectile, you gain an extra jump. So you never have a double jump, but you always have the ability to hit something and jump again. And so you can, I feel like this game is kind of a speedrunner's dream because it feels like a lot of the enemies are placed in a way that speedrunners can really take advantage of them and hit things and go quickly and just avoid a lot of sections because of the mobility that the game provides. And I always love flexible mechanics. So things like, the Beetle and Skyward Sword, where it has very multiple purpose, which is the example I always come back to. And I think the idea that you get this cloud step not only from hitting enemies, but also from hitting the projectiles they throw out, also from hitting like fireballs that come out of the ground, or just any kind of... There are lamps in the game where you will hit them to get currency. So they will be scattered around, and you hit those to be able to get it. So you can gain it back from so many different areas, and it creates some really smart design around that initial section. Now, a lot of the way this game was marketed is, hey, it's this 8-bit world, but then, you switch to 16-bit and it goes a bit crazy. And that kind of happens, I would say, around the halfway mark of the game, which I thought it would happen sooner just because the marketing had been so focused on it. But it really is, you play through this kind of linear, classic, almost Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden style game, get to the end, and then it flips, and then it becomes something completely different, and it turns more into a Metroid style game where now you can go back to previous areas which you were only in 8-bit before, but now you can switch to the 16-bit version through some specific portals.
Wow.
And those portals will open up different areas, which is a really cool idea.
Did you know about this before you got there, or? Yeah,
definitely. Like, the marketing had made it clear that it was a thing that would happen. I just didn't really know the way it would happen.
Okay.
And I think the storytelling, the way it ties in, is actually very smart. There's the stuff around time travel, which is my favorite thing, and Bally hates, as we all know. So that was enjoyable. But I think the game falls down in a couple of areas, because it was really great. The first run-through of just going through levels and fighting bosses is so much fun. Really great boss design, amazing pixel art on a lot of them, really creative areas, and some fan-fucking-tastic music. I think, actually, this may be my soundtrack of the year, better than Octopath Traveler, which is crazy to say, but just like Shovel Knight had that injection of nostalgia mixed with more modern aesthetics for its music, this is just that exact same thing. And I don't know who the composer is, but literally every level I could choose and it would be a great song and I would be jamming out to it, which is what you need in games like that, because if you're going to be dying a lot and repeating sections, having a thumping soundtrack that you want to kick along to is very, very important. And I'll probably throw that in at the break here, because god damn, some of those tunes are so good. But I would say that is the strength of the game, is that first playthrough going to the end. And then when you have the Metroid style thing, it gets more difficult because there are only certain limited warp points. And so what will happen is you can like warp back to maybe the first level, but you may have something in the third level that is hidden there, and the only way to get there is to just go all the way back through the level again. And it takes a lot of time, and especially with the respawning enemies, if you're going backwards again, you're going to be running into those constantly. And it feels like a lot of the design elements around Metroid-style games aren't here because the game was built as a linear game to start with, so you still have to go back to checkpoints if you accidentally fall in a pit, and you still have to basically replay all these areas. Even if you want to go back to this one place, you can warp to it through some of the save places, but then you can't go back to a specific save spot. There are very specific areas you can warp to if you want to fast travel, and you can't be very selective about it. I really wish they'd implemented a way that you could just go to any save point in the level, kind of like what Celeste does, where when you go back to the level, you can kind of go to whichever section of the level you want, because they're really large. And in this game, they don't let you do that. So I multiple times was struggling to find where I needed to go next or what I needed to do, especially because the second half of the game has an adventure gamey type of feel to it. Not super heavily, but there are some items that you need in order to unlock something else, which has a puzzle involved with it, which means traveling through the past and present and the 16-bit, 8-bit kind of thing. And so just figuring those out was a little bit tough. And it meant that I was going through these areas multiple times. Like, I remember going through this one area like 3 separate times and not figuring it out, and then having to go again once I'd looked it up and figured it out again. And it just felt like a bit of a slog, which is unfortunate. Now, the game does have a hint system, which it provides you with. So you can pay your currency to be like, oh, it'll just put it on your map. It'll be, this is the point you need to go to next. And you can just go there. there is this guy who's called the Prophet who gives you kind of cryptic hints. So you can use those to maybe work out, but if you don't know what he's talking about, then it's hard for you to know, like, which area do I go to and what specific place should I go in the level. It does a good job of showing you what you haven't accessed yet. So it's very clearly defined, like where a square ends and where you are able to move to a new area. So if there is something on the map, it'll be pretty glaringly obvious. It's like, oh, there's a blue line there. That means I can go through that door, or there's an area underneath this that I can fall into. Maybe there's a time warp area around there that I can switch to, and then I'll be able to get access to it. So it does have the option for you to make it a bit easier, and it is doable, but I think I should have probably done that earlier as opposed to muddling my way through, and just I was getting a little burned out with it. But it does have some new stuff in the latter half of the game, which feels maybe a little bit out of place when you're doing so much backtracking and exploration, and that stuff is great. One thing, and I'm not sure if this is consistent with everyone, because I heard on RFN they were talking about it, and Greg Leahy was saying that there were some frame rate issues, but it got rid of them when he reset the game. And because I played this game start to finish without ever closing it, the game never had that chance to reset.
Right.
And so later areas, the frame rate was tanking horribly. And I was just very, very annoyed, because there were moments where I was like pressing the button, it wouldn't even jump. Like I'd have to press like 3 times for him to move. It was like that bad. So hopefully that's not something that is consistent with everyone, and maybe I just got unlucky there. But those later areas are really cool in terms of the stuff that they throw at you with puzzle solving, and kind of arenas with jumping puzzles, as it were, like using enemies in midair as jumping points for getting a cloud step to go up to a higher area and stuff like that. It's generally really well done, and it just feels very smooth and fast and satisfying, and killing enemies feels really great. And there is a skill tree that you unlock a bunch of abilities that make you stronger. As we've said, every game is an RPG, so of course it has it in it. But yeah, I overall really love the game. I just think it has some flaws in the latter half that make it a little bit bogged down. And I wish it was a bit more streamlined. If this game had been half its length and had just been that first section, I would have come away completely glowing.
Long game?
It probably took me around 10 hours total to finish. So not overly long, but maybe longer than some of these games tend to be.
Slightly longer than most Metroidvanias.
Yeah, maybe. It comes in around that there. But that's the weird thing, is because it's a game of two halves, and the second half unfortunately lets it down a little bit. But just like Spider-Man, the running around is real good in this game. So it's definitely I would recommend a lot of people pick it up, because it's unique. It has some really great ideas, and is innovating as well as being nostalgic, and that's the best kind of modern retro games that come out these days are the ones that are taking the risks and doing something a bit unique. So yeah, I'd say go play The Messenger. Just be aware that if you are not a fan of that kind of backtracking stuff, it's not well handled in this game. And I'm one of those people who doesn't mind backtracking. It's just sometimes it was a little too bloated for its own good. Could have been trimmed of some of the fat. But yeah, there you go. That is The Messenger. And that is going to be what we've been playing. So there you go, all the video games, and I haven't even talked about Dragon Quest, which we'll probably get into next time.
Gotta save something for next time.
Absolutely have to do that. So yes, we will be back after this break, where we will be discussing the Nintendo Direct that we still don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully it's good. Join us after the break. Alright everyone, welcome back to the second part of the show when we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct, because it just happened and now we actually know what happened, as opposed to before the break when some time warp happened and we're suddenly, look at that magic, now we know exactly what happened. They announced a bunch of stuff and there are some significant announcements. How overall do you feel about this Direct, Bally?
I'm hot on it. I think it was better than what I was expecting. There was some big stuff in there, even though we know the least about the biggest stuff mentioned. It's not got me overly hyped about the remainder of this year in particular, but it's a good way of filling out that 2019 lineup, which before this Direct I think was slightly lacking, but that's okay because it is not 2019 yet. But I think there's a lot in there to be positive about, and just some really weird, unusual drops that I don't think anyone was expecting that are kind of cool, that we'll definitely get into.
Definitely. I feel like I'm way more negative on this Direct than most of the internet. It's a confluence of the way they revealed things as well as the things that were revealed. And I'll go specifically on those, but I think the two major announcements of Luigi's Mansion 3 and Animal Crossing were just not very well handled from the way they were presented. And so it kind of did... Like, the announcement is cool for both games, but I think it was just so poorly handled both times. Added to the fact that the rollout for this Nintendo Online just continues to be a fucking travesty that I cannot abide by.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about what they mentioned there as well. But let's start things off. We're going to just run it down and we'll skip over, I guess, things that aren't super significant for us. But kick things off with the Luigi's Mansion 3 reveal, which is cool. It's so good that we're getting another Luigi's Mansion. I love Dark Moon. I really want to pick up the 3DS game to play through the original because I never owned it. I know you had it on GameCube, but you never beat it, did you, on GameCube?
No, I played like the first few hours and then gave up like I did with every game at that age.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It was too complicated to figure out. So I am very down to play Luigi's Mansion 3. As I said previously, though, I think because we knew Luigi's Mansion on 3DS was coming, when they showed this video, I initially was like, oh, they're showing the 3DS game. And honestly, what they showed in that presentation wasn't super different, and it didn't look very unique or interesting.
No, the engine looks almost identical, and the types of ghosts and things like that.
Obviously, it's higher resolution, but,
sure, but
in terms of the actual gameplay elements, it didn't wow me. You know, there wasn't a Mario Odyssey level of, oh, this is new to it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I feel at the end of the trailer, I was a bit surprised that it was just Luigi's Mansion 3. I was considering it being the case while I was watching it. I was kind of going back and forth. I was like, no, this doesn't look new enough to be a new game. Maybe what I thought is they were porting the original Luigi's Mansion to Switch, like they've done with some other 3DS games. I think the most recent one was Sushi Strikers, where they put it on Switch as well as 3DS. And so when 3 pops up, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But also, that trailer didn't leave me very excited about the game itself. And understandably, it's going to be 2019, probably a bit later in the year. I imagine they'd hold off for a Halloween release, an October release probably, being that it's Luigi's Mansion. But yeah, I need to see more of that game because it felt more of the same so far.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the original 3D World trailer, where it was like, okay, that's a 3D Mario game, that's cool, but this trailer or whatever we're seeing doesn't feel like much that's new, not exciting. And then like 3D World ended up having a very exciting trailer far closer to its release, and I think that a game like Luigi's Mansion 3 will likely have far more details coming in the future that will make us a lot more excited about the game.
Yeah, and I'm sure the game will be great. I'm sure we'll really enjoy it. But right now, my excitement level for it is not particularly high.
Because they didn't give us anything to get overly excited about.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's where I give it credit is that it's a kind of a big deal for a Direct, in my view.
I guess I was talking to you before we started recording, and I was like, yeah, they do have big announcements in Direct. They announced Link Between Worlds in a Direct. They announced all of the Wii U lineup, Xenoblade Chronicles X and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and I guess even the 3D Mario game. No, 3D World was at E3, wasn't it? So I'm trying to think what other ones.
Remember.
But there were significant announcements when they panicked and they were like, oh, we have to show everything that we
certainly feel like we've not had a fairly big one in a while.
Maybe.
With Directs.
But history would say otherwise for me in terms of we do get major announcements in Directs. We just have to, I don't know, there have been so many of them now, it's hard to keep track of what got announced when. But anyway, Luigi's Mansion 3, cool, coming to Switch, a good first-party title to kick things off with. Then we had Kirby's Epic Yarn on 3DS, now called Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. Good feel, of course, the creators of this game, and they also made Yoshi's Woolly World, and I feel like this is just another way of Nintendo filling out the 3DS port lineup for 2019, just to give it some extra juice. That
3DS is trucking on like in ways I had no idea ever was going to do. And games like this,
they ported Woolly World and stuff to 3DS, so it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Especially because Epic Yarn is a Wii game versus a Wii U game for Woolly World, so it's actually more suited to be ported over to the 3DS. But it's a game I actually never played, and it's one that I've always been interested in trying at some point. People loved it back when it came out, so
could stick it in a backlog club poll, maybe.
Potentially. Could be a cool one to do. Then we obviously have Mario & Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story remake, which, sure, I mean, it's using that same engine.
That engine that you just cannot stand, right?
It is garbage. It just makes games look so disgusting. They look horrible.
I need to play one of those Mario and Luigi games.
Yes, but
I
please
just don't know which one.
Don't play any of the ones on 3DS because they just look horrible. I would say your best bet is to download Superstar Saga, which is the first game on Wii U Virtual Console through GBA stuff there. That's probably the easiest way to access it. Maybe if Nintendo give us GBA games on Switch, then that could be cool, but fuck if I know when that's happening. Anyway, Luigi's Mansion on 3DS, still coming out. We got Yokai Watch Blasters, which is already out. Splatoon 2, the version 4 trailer didn't really show much significant. There was like some grenades.
Just a lot of style going on, and it's like the swagger that Splatoon 2 has these days.
It really has. Splatoon generally just has such an identity to it, doesn't it? It really has cultivated that, and I think that they have a very specific style that they're excellent at pulling off. I question whether it helps them put out trailers that make any sense, though, because I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, neither did I. But I mean, when this update comes out, I might jump in again. And Splatoon 2 is constantly doing things that are making me think about jumping. And
Splatoon 2 is my go-to online multiplayer game for Switch.
Me too, definitely. And that's, I guess that's all that Nintendo are trying to keep us doing, is people like us who don't play it consistently, but maybe jump in every now and then, and when an update comes, definitely give it a go, sort of that kind of thing.
Definitely. Then we had Mega Man 11, which this is a case of the Direct being delayed by a week, meaning some things were announced or came out even in that period of time, because the demo came out for Mega Man 11 the week before, which I have downloaded on my Switch. I haven't played it yet, but I'm very much looking forward to doing that, to check it out. But yeah, it's got amiibo support and all that, which is neat. Very excited to see how Mega Man 11 shakes out. Then we had some update for Mario Tennis Aces, where we had Birdo revealed as a character.
PT Piranha doesn't even use a racket.
Just
hits the ball with his hands.
Yeah, I mean, that should be banned, but really he's PT Piranha.
Even Chain Chomp has a racket in its mouth.
Yeah.
PT Piranha doesn't need one.
He breaks the rules, Bally. He's a renegade, and we will let him do what he likes.
He's from Mario Sunshine. He breaks all the rules.
Oh, exactly. Yes, completely. Then we had a pretty cool announcement, which, not exciting for me, but I think for a lot of retro people, is the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, which has 7 games in it. And a lot of them are kind of harder to access, old Capcom brawlers that seem pretty cool, and a couple of them actually arcade games coming to console for the first time. So I think Capcom really leaning into the classic collections. They had obviously Disney Afternoon Collection, the Mega Man Legacy collections, and I don't know if this one is Digital Eclipse as well, but I would imagine they're probably working on it, which is a cool thing. It seems like they figured out the way to sell their retro games in the wake of Nintendo not having a virtual console service, and I think they're doing pretty well for themselves, honestly. Those collections are selling.
It's just another one of these collections that fills that gap, and if Nintendo do now decide to go for a virtual console, they're going to be kind of eating their own tail on a lot of things because of this.
I mean, they're not going to. We know that at this point.
It's not coming. Yeah. It's not coming.
Then we had the rumor that everyone had been thinking was happening for a while. It is New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe coming to Switch, and that is a game that you have played, Bally, on your Wii U.
Yes, It is a good Mario game, but my God, watching that trailer back, I was like, this is the least inspiring 2D platformer I've seen in a Nintendo Direct trailer in a long time. Like,
and you know the worst thing about it is that they're not going to have the best modes from that game because you can't do the gamepad control with 2 players where you just plop down platforms, which was the most fun part of that entire game.
Okay, it was interesting. Yeah, I mean, that game actually has some decent time trial modes and stuff like that in multiplayer, which I think we had a good time with. But yeah, it's there, and it's interesting to see with this port where 2D Mario goes next on Switch. Like, is that Mario Maker game going to be the next one, or is Mario getting an entire transformation for the next game? Like, I'm really interested to see the next step. I feel
like it may depend on how well this sells. If this does gangbusters, then oh fuck, we're gonna have another new Super Mario game
I think this will do pretty well, actually. I think it will.
He'll probably do well, just because it's a 2D Mario game. I think the most fun thing about it is the typeset for Deluxe looks exactly like Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on Game Boy. When you compare them, which is very cool, because that's the other Mario Deluxe game that we've had in the past. Then we had a cool announcement, actually, for a game that I've actually wanted to play for a long time. Is one of those classics that people always talk about.
What system did this come out on originally?
PS2, I believe. So it's the original Katamari Damacy, and it's called Reroll, which is basically a remastered version of it. And Katamari is all about just rolling shit up into a giant ball until you're basically rolling the entire Earth around. And it's very goofy, it's very weird, and it's one of those games I've heard a huge amount about and I'd like to try. So put it on Switch. Great, sounds good to me.
Yeah, weird, quirky. Everything's coming to Switch.
Definitely. Then we had the entire breakdown of the Nintendo Online service, in which Nintendo just told us what they'd already told us before.
The animations they had for, like, with Bowser Jr., Mario, Luigi, etc., it felt like they put more effort into those animations than they did in the entire online service.
Yeah, pretty much. It baffles my fucking mind that Nintendo are still clueless when it comes to this stuff. There is just so much wrong with it, and I think that it was neat to see the NES games and how they're laid out, and the idea that it's basically going to be an app, I guess, for the most part, and you'll access games through it. But the launch lineup is incredibly uninspiring. They were trying to be like, oh yeah, so you can play online. Look at games like Splatoon and ARMS that you're currently not paying for, but we're going to just charge you now, okay? And will you see a significant upgrade in how well those games run online? Probably not, but hey, we're charging you anyway for it. It really does remain to be seen if there is any significant difference in the stability of their online, or I think Smash Brothers will be the real test. If Smash Brothers comes out and we still have lag problems, even after we are paying for this service, then they've fucked up royally.
But Nbz, members receive exclusive offers, and there's more info to come.
Oh, great, yes. More info to come on this service that is launching in literally like a week. Less than a week. What?
More info to come.
Fuck's sake. Like, fuck's sake, why? Why, Nintendo? Why are you so bad at this? To rub some salt in the wound, they announced some NES-style controllers for the Switch, which very weirdly
you just
lob
onto the Switch to charge.
Fun fact, you can only buy these if you're a online service member. Which makes sense, because you can only access the NES games if you are on that service. But also, like, what if someone just wants to buy those controllers because they want them as controllers?
That's weird. I saw some mock-ups online of, like, 2 N64 controllers just kind of edited onto the side of the Switch.
That's where we're going with this.
Yep, you're going to get the GameCube ones on the side like that. They're going to just plug them onto the side, charge them on your Switch, and ready to go.
What an abysmal failure for something that I think it was Kimishima at the time who was saying, you're going to want to stay tuned for our online service. It's going to really surprise people. No, not in any way is this surprising. In fact, it should be surprising that a company for the last 15 years who have tried to do video games online have continually failed at it, even though multiple millions of examples of games doing online out there exist. They still can't get it right. And to rub salt in the wound, they they show the phone app and they're like, well, by this way, you can have other friends in the room talk on the phone as well. And it just gave me flashbacks to the Animal Crossing on Wii
God.
And how fucking awful that was.
So you have a mic that picks up more than one person. It's like, this is not a selling point. What are you talking about? Oh my God.
Yeah. It's just shit. It's fucking
so
shit. And I don't even know if I'm going to pay for this until I want to play some Splatoon or Smash Brothers, because I don't feel like it's worth it right now.
We'll get it when Smash comes out.
Yes, good. I know they have us by the balls, which sucks, but what are you going to do? Anyway, moving on from that depressing note to another one, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. There's a new Switch version. You can change their hairstyles. Nothing much else to say about that game. It looks completely dumbed down.
That Switch bundle is going to sell like hotcakes. I think that is going to be the big seller this Christmas. It's probably it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks neat. It actually reminds me of the Game Boy Color I have, which is kind of gold and silver.
Pikachu.
Yes, Pichu and Pikachu.
How do you feel that Eevee has replaced Pichu as Pikachu's ally?
I don't know. I actually like Eevee quite a bit. I think Eevee's a cool Pokemon. And obviously all the evolutions are great.
Pichu's now super retro. No one talks about Pichu anymore. He's like the proper Gen 2
Well, I mean, he's going to get the spotlight again because of Smash Brothers coming out.
Right.
But Pichu is weird because they already had, I guess, a Pikachu replacement in Gold and Silver with Marill. Like the first Pokemon that wasn't the original 150 that I ever knew about was Marill, and they called it Pikablue. And it was the Pikachu version for that generation. So that's how I always think about how that goes.
And Tracy had a Marill in the Orange Island anime, and that was like the first. Actually, technically, the first second-gen Pokemon you ever saw was Ho-Oh in the first episode.
Literally the first episode, they fucking drop Ho-Oh out of nowhere. Like, what? That was bold, but I guess they
Anyway, look what Nintendo made us do. We're having a retro discussion about Pokemon because they're doing a retro game.
Retro Pokemon
going
game.
Going back to Kanto. Their marketing's working.
Well, we're not going to buy it. So
we're not going to buy it. I hope that Kanto returns another time in a game that is maybe slightly more aimed at me. This isn't the end of Kanto. Like, I hope this is just to dip your toe back in.
Definitely. Then we had a bit of Diablo 3, which was already announced, which is cool. Blizzard's first game on the Switch. Please, Blizzard, bring us Overwatch. Also, why the fuck is Hearthstone not on Switch is the perfect fit. Come on, Blizzard, what are you doing? Then Super Mario Party, which is coming out October 5th. Saw some different mini-games. I don't know. I feel like if I was in a different time in my life when I had easy access to play Mario Party all the time, I would be down for this game. It looks pretty good so far from what we've seen.
If it's got solid 2-player, I might just pick this up and play it with Caroline. But I need someone to say that this game is really hot with 2 players, and I think it'll probably be best with 3 or 4. So I don't know.
Yeah, Mario Party you need a group for really to get the most out of it. Then we had a announcement from Game Freak for a game that literally is called Town, for fuck's sake.
That's a working title.
They called it Town. Town? Is that the best you can come up with? This goddamn Town for your game?
But this is huge. This is like Game Freak have worked on that elephant game and Pokemon, and this is like the third game, I guess.
No, so they did Harmonite on 3DS, which is a really cool rhythm game that I have been meaning to play for a long time. They also worked on Drill Dozer for the Game Boy Advance, and that game back in the day. But you're right, they usually don't work on games outside of Pokemon.
What is that elephant game? Did you play it?
It's, I can't, Tembo, the Badass Elephant?
Yes.
I think that game should come to Switch. Like, why is it not on Switch?
Did you play that on PC?
No, I never played it. I should probably get around to it at some point. But it'd be cool if they brought it to Switch. I don't know why they haven't. It seems like a very obvious choice, especially considering Game Freak's relationship with Nintendo. Yeah. But it seems like a RPG where it's all taking place in this single town.
That was kind of the turn-off for me. I was like, this world looks really cool. This town looks cool. And then I was like, oh, but the whole game's in the town. Oh.
Yeah,
right, well,
I wonder if it has some management aspects, if it has some town building aspects, and it's more like my life as a king.
Normally, the whole point of RPGs in towns is you move from town to town. The idea of staying in one town the whole time, I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, that's Animal Crossing. You live in one town and you do a bunch of things around it, so they can make it work, I think, and make it interesting. But I'll keep my eye on it. It has a cool art style, and it's interesting. Always interesting when Game Freak does something that is not Pokemon. So. we'll take a look. Then we had City Skylines announced for Switch, which is a game that really took advantage of EA's SimCity disaster back in the day, when SimCity came out and was just a nightmare and no one could connect with it and had DRM, and it was just a travesty across the board for them. City Skylines was an independent game that came out on Steam afterwards that was basically giving people the SimCity experience they wanted, and it seems like now it's coming to Switch. However, the frame rate seemed awful in the trailer, and it looks very bad. The texture detail was incredibly low. It just doesn't look like it's very well optimized for Switch, and I read a few tweets from Laura Kate Dale from Kotaku, who said that her experience with it was a pretty bad version. So I wouldn't go out and buy that straight away. I would read up about it, look at and see if they're going to update it or something. It's cooler games coming to Switch, but it just doesn't seem well optimized in any sense. And that's frustrating because it keeps happening, and we keep seeing games like this come and just not be good versions of the game. But
yeah. I do worry that might become a recurring problem with a lot of ports and games,
especially like
Switch.
Bigger budget, more high-end third-party ports.
Yeah. But if it's a hitch here and there, fine. But if it just becomes unplayable, and it sounds like a game like City Skylines, you kind of rely on that detail and accept
right, because you're zooming in and out of your city. So I feel like it's very cool that these games that were originally only on PC now have a console platform that they can kind of work on because of the touchscreen of the Switch and making a lot of things more easy to control. And we'll get to Civilization VI, but I think that's a similar situation. We then had Daemon X Machina, which is that game they showed off at E3 for the first time, with a bunch of mechs that look like Xenoblade X. And just some more footage for it, some weapons they got for
When's
those
that game coming out?
Next year at some point, 2019.
It's next year. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be next year. So see a bit more from that. We'll see. Then they had the final name for the new Yoshi game on Switch, which was leaked a bit early because, of course, the Direct being delayed. There was a Nintendo website listing that had it as Yoshi's Crafted World, and that is what it's called, which still continue to look at that game and think that it's not very interesting from a platforming standpoint.
So done with Yoshi.
Yeah, I feel done with Yoshi.
Yoshi needs to step it up. That's
he
what
does.
I say.
Yeah, he needs to buck up his ideas and get himself sorted out. But it looks great.
It looks nice.
I think the crafted aesthetic is just very well pulled off. And Good Feel are just so good at making those worlds and having them be tactile.
And I think it'll sell really well. People love Yoshi games like that. I think
sure.
Woolly World did okay, and I don't see why this would be any different.
Definitely. So that's spring 2019. Then we have a really interesting one that I'm very curious about your take on, Bally. Asmodee Digital are bringing some card and board games to the Switch through kind of tabletop engines. So we have the Lord of the Rings card game, which I'm just going to go ahead and say it, is literally fucking Hearthstone. And as soon as I saw it on the screen, I was like, are you kidding me? They just stole Hearthstone.
I think you'll find the Lord of the Rings card game came before Hearthstone.
No, but what I mean by that is that the digital version that they presented
I see what
is just Hearthstone. I'm sure the card game itself yes, obviously existed, but the animations and everything, I'm like, you literally just skinned Hearthstone with Lord of the Rings characters. What are you doing?
Well, if Hearthstone isn't going to come to Switch, someone's going to take up that
That's
space.
what I was thinking as
Why
well.
not?
I'm like, well, they're ahead of the game, I guess.
So I've not played Lord of the Rings card game. I've played Pandemic and Carcassonne, and I love Pandemic. It's probably one of the best cooperative board games, and Carcassonne it's got its niche following. It kind of rivals Catan, but Catan is way bigger, and it was cool that Asmodee, they mentioned that like Catan is coming at another date, because that is a really cool game. I love a lot of these games, but they are obviously much better in hard copy, but I think that board games on Switch is a really cool idea, and I definitely have time and energy to play board games on Switch, so I might actually pick this up and play games like Pandemic, Carcassonne. And
it's the kind of thing that, like, on a plane, you could play a board game on the Switch screen and have it take up much less real estate and have a lot of things calculated for you and done that you would have to do on your own.
And
otherwise,
if there's like online multiplayer, I don't know, but we'll see. That would be really cool. And I really do. I like, out of those three games, Pandemic's good, but I really like Catan. If that comes, I will definitely step into that. But
well, they did announce it, so
I'd love to see where they go next, because there's so many. The vast majority of board games work really well in digital form, so I think it'd be really cool. And I think that the Switch has such a big audience and growing that it's good for the board game industry for this game to exist, like to get people interested in board games.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely
cool.
Very, very cool announcement that I wasn't expecting, but actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So then we have Civilization VI, which also was one of those games that just got announced basically before Nintendo was able to do so because of the delay, and it seems pretty cool. It seems like the full Civilization experience looked a lot better than City Skylines did, at least, more well optimized. And I have been meaning to play a Civilization game for a long time. I bought Civilization V with all the DLC and everything for like £5 a couple of years ago in a Steam sale, and I've yet to get around to it. But I really want to. I really want to dig into this style of game because it's one that I don't have a huge amount of experience with, and a lot of people sung the praises of Civ 5 in particular.
I mean, you got a PC, so you got the right thing to play it on, I guess.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I want to dig into that at some point. But it's great that a game like this can come out on console and be viable. And yeah, Switch just keeps proving that that's the possibility. Then we have the game that's basically just turned into a Star Fox game, and that's all they're talking about at this point. And I don't know. I feel kind of bad, but good for Ubisoft at the same time, because I feel like this game would have tanked otherwise. But I think that, especially on Switch, it's going to sell really well, because Nintendo are basically marketing it as a Star Fox game, with the idea that they even have Wolf in it now.
Yeah, exactly, which was cool. And we saw hardly any of this game without Star Fox in it in this Direct, which I thought was strange. And I'm interested to see where this goes.
It's the smart marketing angle, honestly. It's the way you're going to sell more copies of it. So they might as well lean in to that side and take advantage of it. Then we had a couple of JRPGs with World Ends With You Final Remix coming out very soon. And Xenoblade 2 is out pretty much now if you have the expansion pass.
When are you going to play this game, Nbz?
I don't fucking know. I have no time to play anything. But I will get to it at some point this year. It's the same with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm just waiting on both of those at the moment because, I'm almost done with Spider-Man, but I just want to finish up that and then play a lot of Dragon Quest, and Dragon Quest will take me a while. So we'll see how that goes, but I'll grab this at some point and I will play it because I did really, really enjoy Xenoblade 2, and I think I want to go back to that world and see what this is all about. So yes, I will get there. But now we come to the part of the Direct that I think is my favourite and also the most surprising and the best kind of announcement, and that is the Final Fantasy block, which I'm calling it, which is when they were like, okay, Final Fantasy's coming to Switch. And I was like, okay, so it's just going to be the Crystal Chronicles thing that was already announced. That's cool, but yeah, we already knew about it. So they open with that, Crystal Chronicles Remastered, a GameCube game that I've seen all the time when I'm looking through old kind of classic game shops, and I've always thought like, man, it would be really cool to play that game because it was based around having 4 players with the GBAs and plugging them all in, and it was one of those rare ones that did that with the system, like Four Swords Adventures, and there weren't many that had that strange I guess peripheral
the link cable.
To use the link cable between the GameCube and the GBA, which is the weirdest peripheral. But yeah, and now it's coming out, and so it's a relatively hard to find, I think, GameCube game. And now you can experience it how it was supposed to be experienced, with 4 players and doing it online even this time, which is great. It's really cool. I actually, back in the day, played a little bit of the DS Crystal Chronicles games with Nick and with another friend of ours, Stevo, online, and had a good time playing those. They were kind of fun, like action RPGs that you just get together and do some co-op with.
Do you think we could do 2-player with it then?
We could give it a shot, I think. But yeah, it'd be interesting to visit that game at some point. Then they showed off World of Final Fantasy. Well, actually, I think they also showed off Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition HD before that, which is, my God, it's the mobile game version of Final Fantasy 15 that has now been put on consoles as an HD version of a mobile version of an HD game. What a goddamn mess, right? Oh my goodness, Square Enix, you're a nightmare in every way. So if you want to play Final Fantasy 15 in the worst form, then I guess play that version. I don't know how good that version is. It might be.
It's bizarre, the idea that you make a game with two starkly different versions like that for different systems.
Well, it's the exact same story and everything. You go through the exact same... It's basically the exact same game.
Yeah, that's what's bizarre about it.
But it's chibified and mini and... I don't know. I want to play Final Fantasy 15, the actual game, at some point, but I don't think that's coming to Switch anytime soon. So
maybe
you're going to have to deal with this if you want any Final Fantasy 15. And yes, then they announced World of Final Fantasy Maxima, which is basically a souped-up port of it to Switch, which is great because I played some of that game at Gamescom and really enjoyed it and thought it was pretty cool, turn-based, kind of more classic Final Fantasy experience, especially at the time when 15 was coming out, and some people were more about having a turn-based game rather than the action setting that they'd kind of gone with for the new ones. So I think I'll play that eventually when it comes down in price at some point. And then they announced Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, which is just like a mystery dungeon where you're a chocobo.
Is that new, that game?
I don't know. They must have done one of those before, but yeah, it seems like a neat spin-off for super fans. And then they dropped Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, which they did the HD version of last year, and I have been meaning to play that game for so long. It's a game that I've started on emulator ages ago, and the thing that really strikes me is that game is literally Star Wars Episode 1 in its tone and aesthetic. Every CG cutscene looks so Episode 1, and all the NPCs are like Jar Jar Binks clones, and it's really funny how inflected by that style of early 2000 Star Wars it is. I was very surprised by how much it looked and felt like that. Obviously, the story is going to be different and leaning into different things, but it's a game I need to get to, as I need to also get to some other Final Fantasy games, which after that, they just dropped the bombs that Final Fantasy 7, 9, 10, and 10-2 are all coming to Switch as well.
Wow.
So that's awesome.
Do we know
you can
when?
now play... 2019, they said.
Okay.
You can now play Final Fantasy 7, Bally. That's pretty cool.
I mean... Yes, that is awesome. I said I got a PS4 now, but you can't actually play it on
well,
there.
actually, no, you can. I was
can?
just thinking, because they did. That's why they're doing this now, is because they brought out Final Fantasy VII for PS4. Okay. And they also brought out Final Fantasy IX recently as, not a remaster, but, a more modern version you can play on Steam.
I mean, I'd way rather play it on Switch. The idea of that game handheld and stuff
is definitely
awesome. That is
absolutely
really cool. So yeah,
and then obviously 10 and 10-2 came to PS4 and Vita before, but now they're all coming to Switch and Xbox, I think, all these games as well. So everyone else gets to experience the Final Fantasy. And yeah, I find it funny that they miss out Final Fantasy VIII and everyone online is just ragging on Final Fantasy VIII, which is a game that I think has less of a following and is less well-loved than these other games. 7 and 9 in particular are two of the most well-regarded after 6. I would say 6, 7, and 9 are probably three of the...
So I'll play 7 next and then 9. How about that?
Yeah, that probably makes sense. Right. And 10 is also a really good game that I haven't played just because I watched a Let's Play of it years ago and I don't feel like I need to play through it. But 10 is one of those games that I first remember hearing about when I heard about Final Fantasy for the first time. It was because of Final Fantasy X. That's when it made the biggest splash back in the day for me. And yeah, it's cool that all of those are coming. It's a great series of games to just have handheld. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'll probably pick up 9 on Switch because I've been waiting for a sale on Steam, but I'd much rather play it handheld. So that seems like a good idea. So yeah, Bally, after your introduction to Final Fantasy with 6 earlier this year, we were all teed up to just continue it going.
Yeah. Maybe they were encouraged by the success of Octopath or something. Or
yes, I really do think that JRPGs are just swarming to the Switch right now because of the success of a lot of those games.
But I think Octopath, Xenoblade 2, there's not like a ton of top tier kind of JRPGs on Switch, and it feels like now that both those games have done very well, particularly Octopath, now is the time to bring everything RPG related to Switch.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think it's just the portable format fits RPG so much better.
So good, yeah.
Because grinding is a thing, and it's a background task, and people like to chill and grind. So yeah, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. And then finally, before we close out, we had a bit of a Smash Brothers bundle that they showed with pretty lame looking Joy-Cons, I have to say.
I feel like in so many predictions and things like that, people always guess, oh, they're going to reveal this character and then they're going to roll that character into a new game announcement, and it never happens. Like, yes. I feel like this might be the first time it ever actually happened, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel weird about the Animal Crossing stuff, because I think it is the weakest Smash Brothers reveal we've ever had.
Yeah, because the most recent, like, between Ridley and Simon Bellman and King K. Rool, like the three most recent ones, the production qualities have just been through the roof. And
it really feels like Sakurai's CG budget was just ran short.
It's all
spent.
Like,
well, I guess Animal Crossing's a chill game, so we don't really need to murder anyone. So I don't know, just have Isabelle hanging out in her office or something. Who knows? I
think Animal Crossing characters always have to be filmed at that specific angle, like they are in Animal Crossing. Yeah, and they never seen.
I don't know, man. The Villager reveal trailer, it was CG'd, and it was him running from the letterbox and Tom Nook picking up the letter. You know, they did that with Villager.
Yeah, and it was still in an Animal Crossing world. They could have gone for that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And that's cool. That's funny because that game, everyone thought, wow, Animal Crossing's coming to Wii U. And then it was like, nope, this is Smash Brothers. And that was like the twist there. Whereas the twist here was like, Isabelle's coming to Smash. Oh, and Animal Crossing's coming to Switch. Like, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, Isabelle's just not a character I really care about. She's a more modern Nintendo character, but she has become insanely popular in Japan especially, and that's why she's in this game, is because the Japanese audience, when it comes to character choice in Smash Brothers, is usually the reason for a lot of the things that get it. That's why Corrin was put in from Fire Emblem.
I saw this dumb thing online and I want your opinion. So, apparently her name is a play on words.
Okay.
And I never realized this. So, like, what shape is her head?
Is it a bell?
It's her head is a bell shape, so it's Isabelle.
She is a bell.
She is a bell.
We could continue that sentence with another word, but I won't for the sake of profanity. Yeah, it's cool. She looks like a fun character in the game.
We have to relate this all to, like, you are fairly burned on Animal Crossing and you went deep on the 3DS version and you're not
I didn't go super deep on the 3DS game. I only played 50 hours of it, which for Animal Crossing is nothing.
Isn't a ton, no.
Yeah, and I do feel like they need a shake-up for this series. It feels very, very
I think we'll get that. I think there'll be some cool stuff here. I just think it's obviously too early and we only have a title. Well, we don't even have a title. We just have Animal Crossing for 2019.
Yeah, but it's not even a new graphic. It's the old graphic of the original Animal Crossing game with 2019 and some really bad, like, wallpaper behind it. It was maybe the most low-budget announcement of a game this side of Metroid Prime 4, which Metroid Prime 4 had a much more significant reveal that was hype-building and exciting because it came out of nowhere, whereas this one was kind of tacked on to the end of a thing where you kind of thought it might happen anyway, and also anyone thinking that there wouldn't be an Animal Crossing announcement at some point, I'm sorry, is just off their mind, because this is about as inevitable as me drinking water tomorrow. It's just going to happen.
It's inevitable, but it has been a very long time. But I agree that the idea that Nintendo think that they can... The idea that, like, if you're going to do a logo reveal, it has to be something like Metroid Prime 4, and the idea that Animal Crossing works for a logo reveal, they need to get off their high horse, because it's just you can't do logo reveals for stuff that is expected, like you say. Like, it's a bit much to be like, oh, Animal Crossing logo reveal. Like, you kind of need to see a lot more of the game with the fact that Animal Crossing is coming to Switch. That's what people. I'm dying to know how this iterates on the fairly incredibly non-iterative Animal Crossing formula, because we need to see new stuff, and that's what I want to see in 2019. I don't want to necessarily just know the fact that it's coming out. As excited as I am about that, and I do think it was good to see it happen, I just think that it needed more.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before, and I just think that Metroid Prime 4 is one of those games that you weren't 100% sure that was ever going to happen, that they would ever go back to the Prime series, let alone do a sequel to that entire trilogy.
Yeah, especially after Samus Returns and, like, the 2D had its big show, and then it's like, wow, 3D's coming back too. Jeez.
Well, I mean, they actually announced
it was
before Samus Returns,
true.
but that works with a title reveal or a logo reveal because it's unexpected, because it's a surprise and it's something that's anticipated. Animal Crossing obviously is anticipated, but it's not a surprise. And I mean, people, this is the thing that frustrates me about the internet, is like losing their mind at every little thing. But if you didn't think Animal Crossing was not coming to Switch, like, what planet are you living on? It's inevitable. It's just going to happen.
The internet is incredibly thirsty for some Animal Crossing. I think it's been a long time since a proper Animal Crossing game has come, and I think that's why there's been such a hubbub.
Definitely. And I can respect that. And I know there are a lot of people out there who are a lot more into Animal Crossing than I am right now. And, that's the same thing that can be said for Pokemon. Like, those games are all... And that's why we equivocate Animal Crossing and Pokemon all the time, is because they're incredibly popular series that hardly change at all. I
mean, if Pokemon took, like, a, 8-year gap or whatever it's been, and then suddenly had a logo reveal, the internet would be in meltdown. It's
yes.
I think that taking their foot off the pedal with Animal Crossing and leaving it a good few years before a proper game has just really built up the hype.
Yeah, but the other thing with Animal Crossing is the context of they released a shitty-ass board game and a garbage home designer game that was nothing. Like, Animal Crossing
mobile
products... Game. And a fucking awful mobile game. Animal Crossing products of the last 5 years have just been terrible.
Yeah.
So the fact that there is a new one coming out, I can appreciate that, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
The people would be excited, so yeah, that's pretty much it. That wraps up the Direct. Final thoughts, Bally, on it overall? Highlights for you?
I liked it. It didn't get me much more hyped about 2019 from a Nintendo's perspective, but 2018, but it's got me looking forward to, like I said, Animal Crossing and Luigi's Mansion 3 for 2019. I want to see more of those games. It's cool to see that they're coming, but we got to see them. Like, next step, please. Like, bring it on.
Yes, we need more. We need more, and we need it to surprise us and delight us.
All those Final Fantasies, that is great. Perfect for someone like me who hasn't played them before. Even though I own a PS4, I'd way rather play them on Switch, so I will happily pick up 7 and give that a go.
Fantastic. For me, definitely Final Fantasy is the highlight. 9 especially, because that's the one that I want to play. And I feel like this Isabelle reveal was the weak reveal, but I think as a character she looks pretty fun, and I think she distinguishes herself enough from the villager to stand out as her own character. So yeah, it's cool to have her in the game, and we'll be playing with her. I'm just wondering at this point how many more reveals we have left, because we're getting
Everyone
close.
is sharing that thing with all the Miis in their costumes, and it's a Mii costume of Isabelle and King K. Rool. And
there was an Isabelle one, I see. I didn't realize
the
that.
Splatoon kids. Splatoon kids? What am I?
The
Inklings. There we go. And the fourth one was, what was it? Was it Simon Belmont?
King K. Rool?
I said King K. Rool. There's a fourth one. In any case, the fifth one is Gino from Mario RPG. So
yes.
Apparently it's written in the stars, but I don't buy it.
We'll
I don't buy it.
Why is everyone all hung up on Gino? I want to see Mallow. Where's Mallow? That's what I'm talking about. Mallow's another character from Super Mario RPG.
I was going to be like
he's basically like a marshmallow.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I've never played Super Mario RPG. This is the thing with me, Bally, is I just know everything about video games, even though I've never played them. It's just that's how my brain works.
You loved those Let's Plays. You just watched
so
many of those.
Yes, exactly. So yes, that's pretty much going to wrap us up for the show this week. Thanks everyone for tuning in, listening along. Hope you have enjoyed. Lots of ways that you can find us on the internet and things like that. But first things first, we're going to thank our lovely patrons who support us and make all our extra shows possible, which we have a new one, Bally, that just come out.
Yes, we thank you to our two top $10 tier patrons. They are, of course, Caroline and my girlfriend Caroline, I should say, and Atari Alex.
I thought you were going to say my girlfriend Atari Alex.
I'm going to say that at some point. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, if you want to hear more bonus episodes of This Nintendo Life, you can check out our two Patreon exclusive shows. They are TNL Takes and TNL Ranks. We have just put out last week an episode of TNL Takes, and our big hot take this time was our take on food. We covered
literally
of food.
all of food.
All the food from around the world. We missed out a few places,
yes.
But if you want our hot takes on food, definitely check that out. It's $5, but for $5 you can get access to all 10 episodes that we've released in the past 10 months on our Patreon. So it's kind of a bargain to some degree. So definitely recommend.
Look at you, old salesman there.
Recommend checking that out. And even more of a bargain, it's our longest episode yet on.
Well, there you go.
Out of any Patreon exclusive show. So definitely check that out if you want. If on those weekends that we don't have a show, you just want a bit more, definitely recommend it. It's a good time.
Yeah, have fun recording those. So you can obviously find us over at patreon.com/thisnintendolife. That's where you can support us. And you can find us in lots of other places. You can find the podcast on Twitter at TNL Podcast. That's the best place to go for links to our Discord, for links to our YouTube, things like that. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Lord Nbz. Where can they find you, Bally?
I'm on Twitter at Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91.
Wonderful. And you can find the show in lots of different places. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on various podcasting apps, podcatchers as they say, and you can just look us up and find This Nintendo Life, and we should be there. And you can subscribe to us on those platforms, which is a good thing to do, so you'll never miss a show. It always gets put into your feed. And it'll also be really good to get some more reviews. Always love some reviews and some ratings on iTunes. But if you can write one, that is a great way to help the show, and a good way to let its audience grow and things like that. So that would be very, very good if you could do so.
One cool thing I'd like to mention, if you just want to come in, listen to a bit of a show about a specific video game that we've covered, you can just go on any of our YouTube videos, and there's timestamps for all the games, all the topics that we cover. So if you just want a little snippet, you don't want a whole hour and a half of me and Nbz shouting in your ear, you can just have a quick 15 minutes of us talking about
who doesn't love a full hour and a half of us shouting in your ear?
There's a few of you out there, but yeah. So if you just want a little snippet, timestamps on YouTube.
Yep, they are timestamps, yeah. Very good, excellent. And with that, I think that's pretty much us done for today. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks' time to talk about some more video games, and the apocalypse will continue. Everything's coming out, Xenoblade and
Q3,
Tomb Raider, and goddamn Valkyria Chronicles 4 is going to be out before
Red Dead 2's around the corner.
I mean, it's another month away. We've got some space for that, but
it's not that far away.
I want to play Valkyria Chronicles 4 so bad, and I have 100 hours of Dragon Quest ahead of me and no time to play it.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 expansion just came out as well. What are you going to do?
I already said that, Bally. Jeez, keep up with the times. Oh my god. Yeah, it's too much. But I'll play.
We'll get by. Don't worry.
We'll get by. We'll survive.
We sort it out.
Anyway, yes, thank you all for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with some more Nintendo, some more video game chat, some more This Nintendo Life. So thank you, and see you then. Bye-bye. The musical interlude used on today's episode was The Frozen Light from The Messenger. Copyright Sabotage Studio 2018.